Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Microphone's working real well today. All right, so it was a slow Tuesday night at the local bar, and the bartender was just thinking, maybe nobody's here, maybe I should just close up, when suddenly the door swings open and in walks a full-size grizzly bear who comes in, slams his paw down on the bar and says, "Bartender, I'd like a beer." Bartender's okay, a bit nervous. He pours it, he hands it over, says, "That'll be $9. Bear slams down his other paw. There's a $10 bill. Bartender takes it, gives him his change. Then the bear just sits there sipping it. Bartender, trying to ease the anxiety of the situation, says, we don't get many bears in this bar." The bear said, "Well, at $9 a drink, I'm not surprised." Welcome to this place which we make holy by our presence. These doors are open to all. We welcome diverse ideas of the source of life, diverse needs, diverse abilities. Come into this place where the ordinary is sanctified, where the human is celebrated and compassion is strength. Welcome to this place. Together, we make it a holy place. Please join me for the words of the chalice lighting. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of freedom. And our first hymn today will be 361, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In. To rejoice and come in.
Rejoice and come in. Open your ears to the soul. Enter, rejoice, and come in.
Our responsive reading today will be number 551 in the back of the hymnal, number 551. I'll read the parts in standard type, and please join me for the sections in italics. Earth, teach me stillness as the grasses are stilled with light. Earth, teach me suffering as old stones suffer with memory. Earth, teach me caring as parents who secure their young. Earth, teach me courage as the tree which stands all alone. Earth, teach me limitation as the ant which crawls on the ground. Earth, teach me freedom as the eagle which soars in the sky. Earth, teach me resignation as the leaves which die and fall. Earth, teach me regeneration as the seed which rises in the spring. Earth, teach me to forget myself as melted snow forgets its life. Earth, teach me to remember kindness as dry fields weep with rain. And now, Peter, would you please lead us in honoring joys and sorrows?
This is the time in our service for one of the sacred cows of this church and many people in our denomination, where we offer everybody the opportunity of sharing a joy or a sorrow with the rest of the people assembled here today. A number of us think this is an important part of our service and an important part of our life, actually, to share the things that are important to us. So I'm going to give you a time to take a pause, but I'm going to encourage you to listen carefully to what people are saying, because that's a part of it. They can express a person can express a joy or a sorrow, but it's not communicated until somebody hears it. So let's take that moment to consider these things. And now I'm going to offer anyone who chooses to provide us with a brief rendition of your joy or your sorrow so that we can hear it and join you in it.
My joy is somewhat of an announcement. The aconites have arisen. Those are the little yellow flowers that are the first to bloom in my yard, and they are up now, and they won't care if they get snowed on. It's okay. I care. They don't. But spring is coming.
Hi, everybody. I just, first of all, wanted to wish Shelley Collins a happy birthday. She had a birthday a couple of days ago, and I think that's great. We don't see her as often as in the past. One of the fun facts about Shelley is that she's such a kind person, and she knew of an older woman, I think she's in her late 90s, who didn't have a place to go. And Shelley took her in, and she's lived with her for the last couple of years, I think, right? Or last year, maybe. And it turns out that the woman actually was a Holocaust survivor. And Shelley's written about it. So maybe that could be in the next Power Line. Hint, hint.
On Zoom, Francie has something to say. You're on mute, Francie.
My daughter, Sabrina Mayhew, who is a member of the church when she was little, this is a joy. She got her final defense presentation done, and she's been awarded her PhD in nursing. Yay!
Yay.
Her concentration is on breast cancer research and advocacy, and she was also elected to the national board of the National Breast Cancer Coalition, and she was elected to the president as the president of her local chapter in Michigan. So I'm really excited for her and really just proud of her. It's a long time coming. She worked many years through, change of family housing and raising kids and everything, but she did it. So yay. That's it.
Lighting a candle that you can't do from your remote position.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else with a joy or a sorrow you'd like to share this morning? All right, light one more candle for your unspoken joys and sorrows. And so now we move to another sacred cow, which is a collection of our offering, while Patty plays the offertory.
Spirit want you sing in my heart, all the stirrings of compassion flow. I the ship of justice. Spirit, come to me.
My two youngest sons, 9-year-old Malcolm and 6-year-old William, Get up in the morning and they ask me for a bagel. This is fine. I'll cut the bagel in half and feed both of them. I figured out that when I give them each a bagel, I wind up later finding 2 dried out, half-eaten bagels under the bed or in the couch cushions, as if squirrels had tried to hide it for winter or whatever. So I give them each half of one. But they don't just ask for a bagel. Malcolm says, I want, and I interrupt him. I said, may. He takes a breath and says, may I please have a bagel lightly toasted with cream cheese? And then up comes William. And I want, may I please have a bagel lightly toasted with butter? So I toast the bagel, chop it in half, put butter on one side, cream cheese on the other. And they say thanks. Actually, in my house, dropping a bagel into a toaster, waiting 40 seconds, and then spreading something on it counts as making a bagel. As if I had sowed, reaped, threshed, and ground the flour, shaped and baked it, did all of that, made a bagel. My sons either think I'm a magician or just an idiot. Really, in the bagel making department, I am the toaster's lovely assistant. It's the magician that presto makes a cold roll disappear, and then presto, a warm bagel pops out of nowhere, and I just stand there looking pretty. Or I guess I'm kind of a math magician who can turn one bagel into 2 by cutting it in half. Behold, division is actually multiplication, subtraction, transform into addition. My sister is an Episcopal priest. Right now, she is conducting a service, performing the miracle of transubstantiation, turning crackers into the body of Christ. I can't do that. But I can transform one bagel into 2 breakfasts. I can break the body of crust, the bread of leaven, into a communion, as long as the eaters are very small. Anyway, Malcolm wants cream cheese. William wants butter. Malcolm won't touch a bagel with butter. To him, that's not a bagel at all. And William feels the same way about cream cheese. Never mind that butter and cream cheese are both transformations of milk, the same bucket of milk. One magician turns half into cream cheese, another magician turns half into butter. But to Malcolm and William, butter and cream cheese have nothing in common. If Malcolm eats his half and wants more, I'll point to the stub that William didn't finish, and I'll say, first eat that, then we'll talk. He says, no, that's a William bagel. It's like some kind of treasonous traitor. It's gone over to the other side. It can never come back. It can never be a Malcolm bagel. What's up with these 2? Same parents, same house, same crazy hairstyle. We still put them together in the same bathtub. But these little preferences make them feel as if they are completely different. And they demand that their individuality be honored. Each wants something that was intentionally and exclusively made only for him. Which is funny to me, the guy who just cut the bagel in half. But each side has been transformed, personalized into a one-of-a-kind gift for a unique individual. Some people might hear this and say, that's what makes you a good parent. But if you're thinking that, it's because you can't read my mind and hear how many times I think, this is stupid. It's food, just eat it so you can get on with your life. It all looks the same at the other end when you flush, and then it's gone forever. I feed my kids because hungry children bother and annoy me and interrupt me. So if I want a moment of peace to obsess about whatever I'm obsessing about, first, I've got to preemptively silence those interruptions. What these 2 have in common, the same guy who cared enough to toast something, the same mother who works so that we can have a warm house with bagels, butter, and cream cheese in the fridge. They are both fed by the amber waves of grain and the fruited plain the heartland of this country. They both receive butter and cream cheese that, for all we know, may have come from the same cow. An abundant wet nurse whose body makes food for her own offspring. But on top of that, think about it, this bovine single mom in Wisconsin is also willing to nurse 330 million human Americans. Can you imagine that? You and I, foster siblings, adopted and nurtured by the same cow, whom we've never even met. But she put the cream in my coffee and the milk in your Raisin Bran. I apologize to those of you who might find that offensive. For one thing, I know it's not really the cow's choice. The dairy industrial complex is a disgusting dystopia. And also, I appreciate that it's invasive for me to anatomize your stomach contents while you're still digesting breakfast. I'm just bringing it up to show that we have something in common, something to be thankful for. And for those of you who are lactose intolerant or vegan, instead of feeling left out, you can just take a moment and appreciate that I'm not verbally vivisecting you. And just go with me on this, that we also have things in common. Chemicals that come from the earth and its many forms of life. The cow is part of some English phrases that are currently fading out of usage. Nobody says holy cow anymore. Apparently, this expression comes from baseball radio announcers. I don't know what it signified in terms of baseball. I guess old-time fans huddled near their radios just needed something really big and improbable to envision during a hit. Like bases loaded, strike one, strike two, holy cow. Oh, that's it. That really puts a picture in your mind. And the expression sacred cow, meaning someone's personal hobby horse. Come to think of it, people don't say hobby horse that much anymore either. Expressions beginning with bull are still around and doing fine. But holy cow and sacred cow are both facing extinction, which is interesting because the cow figures in some of humanity's earliest symbolism. Cattle were popular subjects for Paleolithic cave painters. The oldest known cave painting is a cow in Borneo that someone etched in red ochre 40,000 years ago. There are also 20,000-year-old examples painted in the caves of France and other locations in Europe. These caves were not public art galleries. They were deep, dark, dangerous to access. Some archaeologists say that cave etching came from a belief that humans could descend into the womb of the earth and impregnate it with symbolic images so that animals would be born. The earliest known experiment in city building was 9,000 years ago in Anatolia, what we now call Turkey. The experiment housed thousands of people in a multi-story apartment complex, and excavators have identified one of its inner chambers as a temple. In this cave-like room, bull skulls with plastered features were affixed to the walls. We don't know why, but it's likely a parallel with earlier traditions of etching cattle in caverns. Statues and carvings of cattle are also found in the oldest settlements of the Indus Valley, what we now call India, where a matriarchal metropolis arose 5,000 years ago. This civilization conducted the first known experiments with indoor plumbing. The culture fell 3,000 years ago, maybe due to invasion from the north, but the cow continues to be venerated in India. The Sanatana Dharma, which we call Hinduism, forbids the slaughter or consumption of beef. And cattle cannot be owned. They are free to wander in India, producing milk and butter that play important roles in Hindu rituals. When we think about sacred cattle in ancient religions, one of the first stories to come to mind might be the famous golden calf fiasco in the biblical book of Exodus. When the liberated Hebrews have escaped from Egypt and Moses climbs the mountain to receive the law, the people gather around and demand a God statue that they can pray to for provision as they cross the desert. They take up a collection and melt down their gold to produce the likeness of a calf. Of course, the story ends in disaster. Moses comes down from the mountain, crushes the statue into powder, adds water, and makes the people drink it. But regardless of crime and punishment, it's interesting to note that when the Hebrews wanted a shape to pray through, the image that came to mind was a sacred cow. There are many other examples of holy cows in religions throughout the Middle East, Europe, and Asia. As an old expression goes, we could keep listing these till the cows come home. There is also cattle's North American cousin, the bison, who plays a significant role in the indigenous spiritualities of the Great Plains. Natives of the Midwest believe that the plains belong to the buffalo, who host the human population, providing food, clothing, shelter in the form of bison hide tents called teepees, and bone tools. And in exchange for this hospitality, humans can conduct religious rituals, encouraging rainfall and grass growth to feed the bison populations. Most ancient traces of cattle veneration are mysterious etchings and carvings from ancient cultures whose stories have been lost in the shifting sands of time. Oddly enough, it's the Vikings who preserve one of the oldest known cow myths in print. Norsemen were surly pirate types. Even the word Vik means to pillage. So Viking was an epithet for dangerous seafaring raiders. But in the 13th century text known as the Prose Edda, there is a story about the beginning of the earth. In a place between the fire and the ice, there was a cow called Ahumla, who stood licking a large lump of salt. She secreted 4 streams of milk and nursed the frost giant Ymir. And as she licked away at the salt, she found some hairs on her tongue. And licking further, she revealed the head, then the body of Buri, who became the grandfather of the great Norse sky gods. Well, after that, the story immediately turns pretty Viking. Odin and his brothers kill and dismember the frost giant, making land from his flesh and mountains from his bones and clouds from his brains and oceans from his blood and the sky from his skull. Eventually, one of the frost giant's offspring gets revenge. Loki is adopted by the gods and his trickery triggers the apocalyptic Ragnarok. It's a brutal, nasty story from a culture that basked in bloody violence. The cow is quickly forgotten, which is too bad because for one shining moment there, it was this cow that nurtured these 2 ancient enemies, feeding both the frost giant and freeing the sky god from a block of salt. She is a symbol of maternal warmth, and her generosity is not bounded by either side of this cosmic struggle for control. Who knows? Maybe the sky god liked butter and the frost giant liked cream cheese. Whatever it was that drove these 2 apart. It's hard today to think of the cow as something sacred, worthy of reverence. The word cow is never a compliment. Bull is occasionally a mild compliment, but it's pretty seldom. We've spent thousands of years selectively breeding the fattest, stupidest cows to the stupidest bulls. Our agricultural science is based on unnatural selection. We've made the cow totally dependent on us, and we've developed a dangerous dependence on it. Now it turns out cattle flatulence might be more hazardous than fossil fuels, and cheap hamburgers might be more addictive than opium. The industrialization of harvesting milk and meat is horrific. When we contemplate our modern relationship with cattle, there's a lot to feel bad about. But, spoiler alert, this message isn't going to end with crying over spilled milk. It's fascinating to look at how many cultures share a respect for the cow as a symbol of nurture and generosity. A cow that can feed creatures as different as people and calves, and inspire religions as diverse as Hindus and Vikings. That's a real generosity. It's never a compliment to call someone or to be called a cow. But there's a lot we can learn by this singularly generous creature. Thank you. Our closing hymn is number 131.
Love will guide, peace has trust. On the road, be to give. Love will guide. If you sing like the air. Speak deep within. You can change the world. Love will go. Peace has tried. Free to give.
Do we have any announcements today? Well, I'm excited to announce that this afternoon in adult education, we will continue our look at the Haudenosaunee, the indigenous peoples of New York State. I see our service is ending a little bit early today, so maybe we can start that at 12:15. Great. Together, we have sanctified this space. If you have found strength and comfort here, share some out there. They need it. Remember that you are blessed and you are a blessing and you are not alone. Please join me for the words of extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this chalice but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Holy cow. I'm pretty partial to cows, having come up as somewhat of a cowgirl way up north. But John, I should really like to have you tell us about the elephants. I love elephants. The cow is of the bovine ilk. One end is moo, the other milk. Ogden Nash. The cow mainly moos as she chooses to moo, and she chooses to moo as she chooses. She chooses, she chooses to chew, and she chooses to chew as she muses. If she chooses to moo, she may to amuse, or may moo just to moo. She chooses. If she chooses to chew, she may moo as she chews, or she may chew just to chew as she muses. Moo, moo, moo. Come a yippee, yippee, yippee,